right, well, I'm here on the Cortina compound with none other than Mr. Cortina. How's it going, Eric?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for coming over.
Well, thanks for the hospitality. You picked us up at the airport, gave me a nice little room in your barn out there, and I feel like I'm in heaven out here.
Nice room in the barn. It sounds like an oxymoron.
Well, I told Eric this, but he said, well, I've got a room that's out in my building, my outbuilding, a shop, whatever, and I'm like, well, sure, like, hey, it's a room. It's nicer than any hotel I've ever been in. I mean, he had like little bags of pretzels, water lined up, an espresso machine, wireless charging pad. I mean, I was floored when I was in there. So thank you again for the hospitality.
You're welcome.
And he's putting up another friend of ours, a teammate of yours, Jeremy, and his wife in the house here. Mm-hmm. And we're all going to go shoot the, what's the official name of it? TSRA?
Texas State Rifle Association Long Range Match.
Championship.
Long Range Championship.
All right. Well, people watch your channel. They know a lot about you, but I wanted to ask some things that maybe you haven't talked about. So the first thing is, how long have you actually been shooting?
I started back in like 07, 08. Okay. So going on, 15 years now? Yeah.
That's cool. And had you shot like as a child or anything, or like?
Yeah. So I shot as a child with my dad, pistols and stuff. But I really started shooting when I was about 18.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he really was into hunting, so he's like, let's go shoot. And I'm like, all right. So I went with him, and he let me shoot his rifles, and then I started really getting the bug.
Yeah.
And then,
was there a certain gun or caliber where you kind of went, like, it was sort of like the tipping point for like...
for me, it was the typical. I started with the 243, and then I wanted bigger, and then I went to the 7, Remington Magnum, and then the 264 Win Mag, and then the 300. It was the just look at the ballistic chart and decide which one's better.
So F-class guys aren't the only ones that chase calibers.
No, and it wasn't until I started going elk hunting in Colorado that I decided, I need to learn how to shoot long range.
Yeah.
So I came back and I decided to look for matches and found F-class and never left. And then I quit hunting.
Now you just hunt paper.
Yeah.
So I think I know the answer to this, but I ask everybody, what's your favorite discipline to shoot? Like, I know you shoot F-class, but is it actually your favorite discipline, or is there something that you kind of, on the side, it's really your favorite?
Well, it's what I know, right? Yeah. PRS is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's just different. And I don't know if PRS is really fun for me because I don't take it as serious as F-class. I don't stress over it like I do F-class.
Yeah.
PRS, I just literally go and have fun. Yeah. And I really don't care whether I win or lose, right? And I think that's what makes it a lot of fun. And I remember shooting F-class that way. But now I don't have the luxury. You know what I mean? I pretty much got to go and... You know how it is. Just got to try to win, and there's a lot of. Look around. You'll see. But there's just a lot that goes into trying to win, and I think that can take the fun out of it.
And kind of before we take a look around your shop here, are you a person who shoots to reload or reloads to shoot?
Oh, I reload to shoot.
Yeah. So if you had somebody hypothetically that did all your loading for you, that would be your ideal situation.
Oh, I do now. Yeah, absolutely.
So you have your own human ammo bot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And has that made the shooting any more or less enjoyable, or it's just giving you more time to do it?
Well, it's allowed me to get back into shooting.
Yeah.
I just didn't really have the time to shoot. I would shoot 3 matches a year. That's it. Texas State, and even for the last 2-3 years, I haven't shot Texas State.
Oh, really?
I go to Burger and Nationals, and that's it. And even every time that came around, I was never 100% prepared. I just had to carve time out of my day, which is super busy already.
Yeah. So I know we talked originally about going to the Mark 7 system on the 750, and I know that freed up a little bit of time, but ultimately having your own reloader has made all the difference.
Oh yeah, and you'll see. But everything that every purchase that I made to set up my reloading room was in the effort of saving time. That was like, how can I get my time back
without sacrificing quality?
Correct.
Obviously.
Yeah. And that's why the decisions that I made were made.
Yeah.
I was trying to buy time back.
So if we look at your shop, you've got obviously like the machining side here. You've got your lathe, the mill. We got a CNC lathe. These are kind of the fundamentals of where you started, right?
Right.
And I think as Erik has shown in some other videos, this is where it all started. And we've been having some interesting conversations about the progression. So it's gone from this to that,
Right.
to the CNC.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll get to show you the giants, but they wouldn't even fit in this room.
Yeah.
And
It's been a crazy ride with machines, but that's my mindset to everything. I don't know. It's
bigger, better, faster.
It's a sickness. Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Is there I know you've been through a lot of different tools and stuff. Is there a particular tool, even if you're not doing a lot of the reloading yourself anymore, that you just would never replace? Like, is there, no matter what, foreclosure, divorce, world falls apart, what tool would you just not do without?
The trimmer.
Trimmer?
The drill trimmer.
The drill
or
trimmer.
I used to throw brass away so I wouldn't have to trim it until the drill came around.
Yeah.
And I've had it for however long it's been around, 10 years or longer.
I have to say that's been the number one answer out of anybody who does a lot of reloading is I would never give up my trimmer.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that are necessary, and it's the most painful to do if you don't have the tool. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Everything else, like I can throw powder with a RCBS Chargemaster or something.
Right.
It's fine. I did it for a long time. It's not painful. Trimming brass without a power trimmer.
It seems like everybody has one of those old school Wilson
Oh,
ones.
I had one.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to the Wilson. I bought a reloading kit to start,
Yeah.
and it came with one, and I hated it. And then I said, I'm not doing this. And then I got into the Duro, and I said, okay, and that's it. I've had it ever since.
And obviously you're pretty high in your game, and there's probably not a lot that stumps you anymore. But as you were, progressing in your reloading, was there one particular step where you kind of felt like you just never could get it right, and it just took the longest, and then one day it just finally clicked? Was there some part of the process in reloading where you just kind of went, man, there's got to be a better way?
Setting up my full-length sizing die.
Really?
It was just never, I didn't know how to set it up. If you read, the worst thing you can do is read the manual for instructions on how to set it up, because they go touch the plate and then back it off an eighth to a quarter turn.
Right.
That's a drastic difference.
Yeah.
in distance, right? So I would do that, and I'd set it up that way, and then I'd have issues. Either the next firing I couldn't chamber the brass, or 2-3 firings I couldn't chamber, and it was just always it wasn't until I had to break away from the instructions.
Yeah.
And I started starting to figure out how to set it up. Started to understand headspace. Started to understand the relationship between a die and the brass and the chamber.
Yeah.
That I finally got it, and that's why and then it hit me, and I'm like, this is really quite easy. Which is when I made that video about how to set up your full length sizing die easily. You can just measure it, and you're there.
You think that's a step that a lot of people overcomplicate?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Drastically big time.
Yeah.
And it can be quite easy, but it can be very frustrating, and it was for me, because if you don't set it up properly,
you could ruin a whole batch of brass and not even know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. You don't know it.
You think there's still room to improve in the market for sizing dies?
I believe so. It's they really haven't changed in ever. I don't want to say ever, but they're pretty much still the same thing, which nothing wrong with it. It works, and I think that's why people haven't changed. But there's, I don't know. I have made some different things that, for me, they're like, yeah, this works a little better. But is it groundbreaking? I don't know.
Just see a lot of workarounds, right? Shims and different shell plates, and everybody has a different way to work around the problem of full length sizing.
Yeah, Short Action Customs has shims, but I think who is it? Who makes that modular die that's super well made?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name. It's like $800 or something.
Yeah. That's where kind of the progression started. But you need an RCBS rock chucker because it has a bigger thread.
Oh, okay.
Who makes that die? Dang it.
It's the guy's name, right?
Yeah.
I'm totally drawing a blank. You know the one we're talking about? Oh,
Anyway, god dang, I even interviewed Warner.
Oh, okay.
Warner die. The Warner die, it uses shims, and they have a really good way to go about it. But there were some limitations, right? You need a special press, and they won't fit on your regular press. And then Short Action Customs has, I think they have a similar thing where you can changed. I mean, so there's been some improvement in die designs, but I think the best improvement that you can make is just understanding how it works and how to set it up, and then after that, you can make just about any die work.
Yeah, well,
because once you understand the relationship, then you know whether you even have a die that works for you or not.
Well, that's true.
Most people don't even know it.
Because you could buy a high-end die and it might not even be right for what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to have a good relationship between size brass and your chamber.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
How about within the reloading process, if you think about everything, every kind of sorting, measuring, whatever it is, annealing, is there a process that, obviously you've tested pretty much anything that can be tested. Is there something that you came across where you went, I'm not even going to bother testing, or you did such little testing that you knew it was just such an irrelevant thing to your reloading, where you went, I'm not even going to bother trying to sort or trim or do something?
Weighing bullets and primers.
Yeah.
I weighed bullets and I said, I tested it. And, as you know, I have a 1,000-yard range and go out there and no difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
And sorting primers, I've tried that too, and I just could never see a difference.
Measurable difference.
And I'm like, okay, it's just not going to do it. Again, I'm buying back time. Time is the one thing that I'm trying to save. Yeah. So those things didn't really make a difference. Do they hurt anything? No. I sorted brass for a long time, like by weight.
Yeah.
And I finally gave it up.
I think we've seen that a lot, though. I think bullets, primers, and brass have gone through sort of this evolution up and down, where as soon as somebody wins that does it, people start chasing it again, and then they go, well, maybe we don't really need to.
What ends up happening is it really doesn't hurt anything. Right. And you can rationalize it and go, I'm going to do it one time. It's not going to hurt anything. And you can just do it, and nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But ultimately, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, because it does. It's just that the components that I use, right? I use Lapua, brass, Berger bullets. They're so good that it is irrelevant to do.
Right.
Now, is it irrelevant for every bullet out there and every piece of brass? No, it is not. Right. I'm just saying, for Lapua and Bergers, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we all pretty much have agreed on over time.
Right. And so I don't want to say that it doesn't matter. It's just
in your situation.
In my situation, the components that I use, and of course, you want to start with good components, right? Because that's going to save the good components. Going to save you tons of time.
Yeah. So when we've been here for a little bit, looking around, I see awards. There's literally just awards just sitting on the ground. There's a big plaque over to the right, and there's just sitting around. And I know
this thing is full.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
And over on the wall, you got your Lapua Championship plaques and pictures. You're a man of many accomplishments. What is sort of I know that you are a goal-oriented person. You have to have another goal in mind. So what is your next thing? Is it a Worlds? Is it an international championship? What's the next thing that Cortina hasn't done that you really want to do well and succeed at?
It's weird, because the one thing that I want to do is win Texas State. That was the one thing that I set out to do.
Yeah.
And I've won it, I think, 4 times now, more than anybody ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's done. But I've never really set out to win a nationals or I won a ton of them with team, right? But I've just never, for me, nationals is more about just hanging out with friends and just going and having a good time, right? I still try to compete, but I'm never honestly try to win it. And it's a big difference because trying to win is a lot of work, tons of work, and I just don't have the time, and I'm afraid if I do that, I'll get burnt out. There's so many people that have been very successful, and they just quit because they're like, I'm done. It's just so much work, and I don't want to burn out.
No, that makes sense. And how are you feeling about international competitions? Is that something you still enjoy doing?
I enjoy doing it. I freaking love doing it, but it's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go win that. No, I just want to go. I don't want to shoot poorly, but I also don't want to put in the work that it requires to win. If I win, I win. I think I still have the skill enough to win, but it's just, I think I would burn out and take all the fun out of it.
So in today's, I think the last 5 years, we've seen a massive increase in F class in terms of the rifles, the scopes, the components, the knowledge. What do you think is the biggest thing that holds back somebody who is coming up in F class, or maybe other disciplines that use similar methodology? It used to be, well, I got a better scope. I have an advantage now. I have better rifles. But, look, anybody can have a really great gunsmith put a barrel together, and you can get a board in easily, and you can get, like, what holds back a top 10 shooter these days?
Changing too much. They don't stick with anything long enough to let it work.
Yeah.
They just, it's like anything. Like, you can't say, if you're trying to give up smoking, you can't quit smoking for a week and you're like, okay, I'm done. I'll get back to smoking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I quit. No, they don't give it enough time to work. They make a change and they expect it to immediately translate to target, and nothing works that way. So what I always tell people is copy others. Copy the ones that are winning. Get your 284, 180 hybrids, Lapua brass. And get you a Brooks board, that's for us, right? Some Brooks barrels, board and actions. You can get a Zero Stock, X-Ring. There's a few others out there that are doing well. And then you get you a scope, you have your Night Force, you have your Collis, you have your Vortex, Golden Eagle, and then you're shooting a 10 mile.
Yeah, shoot you on 10 miles. Yeah.
I mean, those... Just get you what works, what's working for others, and just copy that.
Yeah.
And get it to work for you. Because see, you want to start with something that's already established, and then you want to make that work yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Once you make it work, keep it working. Because see, making it work and keeping it working are totally different things.
Yeah. Right? I think you and I talked one time, and I think the thing that sort of sunk in for me, we were talking about like baking. And like, you don't go try to figure out how to make chocolate chip cookies. You go get a chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Yeah.
You bake it a few times, and then you go, well, what if I add cinnamon?
Exactly.
Right. You don't just go into making chocolate chip cookies and saying, well, I'm just going to put some flour and some sugar and some. You got to have the recipe.
Well,
first.
Yeah. For example, it's like if I was going to make some chocolate chip cookies, and I go, I think I'm going to use white chocolate. No. You first need to perfect.
Yeah.
The conventional chocolate chip cookie, and then start deviating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Before you put Magnum chocolates in.
Exactly. But start with that.
Yeah.
So it's all about variables, right? Minimize the variables. Yeah. You are the variable at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Get it to work. Once it's working, okay, keep it working. Keep it working. A barrel or two, keep it working. And at that point, I would suggest that you just stay with the same thing, but most people want to change something. They always want to go, well, I'm losing points downwind. I need a bigger gun. No, you just need to get more bold and move out further. But they always want to build a bigger gun. They always want to look at ballistic tables and go, if this bullet could do this or do that,
Yeah. A lot of if it was faster, if it was bigger.
Yeah, but in reality, it's them. They just make bolder moves,
What's the best advice you ever got from another shooter as you were, learning and coming up? Like, is there anything that's ever stuck in your head?
Yeah. Mike Downey, he was my mentor, and he said, and to this day, and he said, if Lapua doesn't make brass for it, don't chamber the round. and it's seriously, and that was, I know I shoot for Lapua now, but I didn't back then, and to this day, it proves true. Because that goes back to what I was saying. You got to do something that's proven. And Lapua is proven to make top quality brass, and brass can make or break a cartridge.
Yeah, I think we've all seen that.
It's not one of those black and white things. You just think, well, maybe the barrel, maybe this, it may be that, and it may just be the brass.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, let's take a little walk around here. We got a little bit of luggage in the way, so talk to me about what's going on here. This is in the middle of the room. I see a lot of rifles. Is this sort of like just their holding pattern where you normally have them?
Yeah, so this is so Jason and I, we shoot together now. And these are just, when the rifles come in, they go here. And this is where they go and get cleaned and they get looked at. Every rifle comes in, gets cleaned, gets looked at. And I'll show you. So for example, this rifle comes in, right? I would take it, put it in here. Soft jaws.
Yeah.
And we have a bucket right there. The bolt comes out, goes in this container.
Yeah.
Right? We take, this is not the right one, but we would take a bore guide.
Yeah.
Stick it in here. Right? And immediately we have a bore scope right here.
And so this is one of the test longs.
Test
right?
long, yep.
Yeah. And you just have a nice little setup here. It's on a little post.
And it's ready to go. It's really easy to go in there. Take a look. So this one's pretty clean.
Yeah, it's looking good.
So, you know, we take a look, and then it's depending on what it looks like, it's what we do. We don't have a specified. This is another thing that people go, well, give me your cleaning process. Well, I don't know what it is. I do whatever the barrel needs. If it has tons of carbon, I go in there and get the carbon out. If it has tons of copper, typically I start with carbon. Yeah. And then I look, do I need more carbon? Do I need to go copper? Do I need, if I'm trying to clean really fast, I go after the carbon, patch it out with just alcohol to just get all that out of there, and then I follow with the abrasives immediately. Yeah. No copper solvents or anything, just
because the copper will kind of go with it.
Yeah, usually. It goes with it. And then, but this is what happens. It goes in here. While it's in here, we have the bolt tool right here. We disassemble the spring. We clean everything off, make sure there's no dirt, lube everything. Just all we do is we use this IOSO triple action cleaner. It cleans and lubricates. So you don't have grease or anything, but you know, while that thing's soaking, the barrel or the bolt gets TLC. Yeah. We clean it, check everything. So by the time this gets done, then it gets put away, and then the next one makes it onto here. But that's what we do. They always get cleaned when they come in. It might be a real light cleaning, because see, cleaning it's maintenance. So we don't just clean, we maintain, right? We clean, we check this. If the scope's dirty, we blow it off with air, whatever, you know what I mean? Check, whatever, you know. It's just got to make a habit of making sure. This goes back to getting it to shoot and keeping it shooting. This is the keeping it shooting part.
And you're a big fan. I know we've talked, and you're obviously not afraid to talk about it. And I know that I'm definitely on the same track now, is getting the gun back to a 0 point. So when you say you don't have a cleaning process, your entire cleaning process is, what do I need to do in the fewest steps to get it back to kind of reset it, right?
Yeah.
And that's all it's about. You know what your reset is. You know where you want your barrel to look.
Yeah.
What do you need to do to it? This is where it needs to look.
If I shot it 30 times and it comes back in, we put it in here, go in there with a bore scope, like, oh, I just go after a little bit of carbon, and maybe just throw a patch out or something in there, a couple of wet patches, just let it soak for a while. Check the bolt, clean everything up, lube everything, patch it out, look in there, okay, it's clean, boom, put it away. You know,
simple as that.
5 minutes. Or you know, you come back from a big match, a week long, and you come back and you're like, okay, I cleaned this thing while I was away, but it's still got some carbon buildup. Let me get this thing down to bare metal, you know. So no two barrels require the same treatment.
Yeah.
That's why we have this here, because without looking in there, you really
don't know. You're guessing.
Yeah. So.
And I know we've talked about this before, even before I came, but I think one of the number one things that I think we all agree is people overlook their bolts. They overlook springs. They overlook firing pins. I know that you, Jeremy, myself, most of the guys we shoot with, like, I have a reminder in my phone. I know you guys do something similar, where every year or every 6 months, it's firing pins, it's springs, it's people really underestimate how much those things can affect your accuracy, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's back to consistency. Like, your spring is, every day that goes by, it's weaker. Maybe by very little, but it's weaker. And people go, man, you know, all of a sudden my rifle won't shoot. Well, how old is your spring?
Yeah.
You know, it requires a certain amount of force to set that primer off. And especially if they don't ever clean it, now that spring, it's weaker, plus it has to overcome that extra friction because you never clean your bolt.
Something that was interesting that you said when we were out here, and you said, oh, do you ever change your spring? I said, yeah, I've got a reminder in my phone every year. And you said, well, that's good. Like, that's great. That's better than most people. And then what did you say you do with yours? Because I love what you said. I think I might switch to it.
New barrel, new spring.
New barrel, new spring. Because really, springs are what, $6-7?
Yeah. And you slap a new barrel in there. Throw, and again, at that point, it forces me to remove the bolt completely. Yeah. Right. And that allows me to go through the whole thing and make sure nothing's binding, nothing is, because you can have moisture in there and stuff really starts sticking.
Right.
I mean, how many times you've been out and you get rained on or just a heavy fog, and and if a barrel, it depends how long a barrel's going to go, but we shoot barrels pretty often.
Yeah.
But it just allows you to. For me, it triggers multiple things. New barrel, okay, it triggers going through the bolt completely, flushing out, at least flush out the trigger.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's good, and then you start again from a baseline, right?
Yeah.
And start again.
Because really, for most people, by the time you buy a barrel, gunsmithing, you're easily $500 or $600 into a barrel.
Yeah.
Whether it's a PRS gun, whether it's a F-class gun. So what's another $6 on a spring?
Not only that, the other thing that I think people should do is not only spend $8, but learn how to do it themselves.
Oh, for sure.
And that's going to give them the confidence to just go in there and look around and see. I mean, a Remington 700 is super easy. I mean, most custom actions are Remington 700 clones anyway, so it's super easy to replace a spring. But you need to do that yourself. It's just going to get you a more intimate.
I know. So for me, I don't know how you guys are, but the reason I had to buy, the reason I ended up learning to do it is because I got in a pinch. Like it always seems like you learn the most when you get in a pinch, right?
Why did you get in a pinch?
Because I wasn't prepared.
You weren't maintaining it.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But like I know now I've done videos, you've done videos, showing how to pull the firing pins out, how to get the springs out. They're really simple tools, and it literally takes less than 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. So the bolt, right? After it's cleaned up, everything's cleaned up, and then we throw our dirty rags in there, right?
Oh, gotcha.
But right now, I'm not gonna go grab another one, so I'm just gonna show you. So we wipe everything down, right? And we lube it with all I do is put this IOSO triple action cleaner all over the bolt like this.
Yeah.
And then just wipe it off. And like I said, that stuff cleans and lubricates.
And you do a little bit of grease on the lugs?
Yeah, and so we do that, right? And that thing just runs like it's on bearings.
Yeah.
And then we keep the grease right here.
Yeah, same stuff I use. I think most of us use that TW25.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
The place where you want to grease is behind the lugs.
Yeah.
Right here. 1, 2. If you have a 3 lug, well, obviously there 2. And then you want to lug this. You want to grease this ramp right here. That's where that's where it rides up when it compresses the spring. And one more place that nobody ever lubes is over here, with your primary extraction. This is where it rides against this cam on the action. Nobody lubes that part, but that needs to be lubed as well. And then don't put the bolt in there and just close it. You have to push forward and down. What it's doing is creating a gap in front, and then you rotate so you don't wipe the grease off. And then you just work it up and down. Another option, you can, when you push really hard, you're overcoming that spring pressure.
Yeah.
You can also pull the trigger back as you do this.
That's what I do.
So you don't have to overcome that pressure.
Yeah.
But then just work it back and forth and you're done. Like I said, if you just go in and close it, it's just gonna wipe that grease off, and you didn't really grease anything. But anyway, they get looked at, the scope we just blow with air.
Yeah, and you primarily use callus?
Yep.
That's I think pretty much everything. There's only one over there, and I think you said you have one in a box waiting to swap out on that one.
Yep.
So,
but I mean, and that's it. This one's done. Everything gets looked at. Make sure everything's tight.
Yeah.
And just put it away. And
Very cool.
like I said, they come and they get states right there. They don't get put away unless they're clean.
Yeah, that's
and
smart.
looked at.
Well, let's go around the corner here and look at some of the loading equipment. So we've got, we'll just kind of show here, we've got our primal rights. I know you're a big fan of that.
Yep, so we start here, annealer,
Yep.
right? I had a flame annealer for a long time and finally transitioned to the amp, and I'm so happy. I'm glad I did. It's one of those things that I was always like, I don't need to do that. I don't need it. And now that I did, I'm like, why didn't I do it sooner? So we have the amp here, and we kind of just flow this way.
Okay.
It goes from the amp, and then gets to the progressive.
Yeah.
This is a 750 with the auto drive.
Yeah.
And we prep all the brass in here. All my competition brass gets prepped here.
747, 284, doesn't matter.
Everything. My shoulder bump is dead nuts. Like it makes really good ammo.
And you're doing probably a lot of the tricks. You're using obviously like a screwed down shell plate and
yeah,
a lot of that stuff.
Yes and no. I mean, look at this one. This is my chicane, and I just use a regular plate.
Yeah, you don't notice any issues.
No.
You got this honed a little bit on the back side?
Yeah, I did. I machined that.
I think that for me that made more difference.
Yeah, I made that little improvement, but other than that, it's just 750. All we do is prep brass on here. We don't
decapping, sizing.
We decap, size, and expander mandrel.
Yeah.
From there, it gets trimmed.
Okay, so we got our Gerode over here.
Yep. Then we have another one on here. This is a manual, so we hardly ever use it.
Yeah.
And then it goes to here. This is where
your plethora of powder drops.
We have the my old Tortorius. This is Jason's, and now we have this Ingenuity thing.
That thing's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. But Jason's got his what is this? Version 3 or something?
That looks like a V3. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's using this, and most of the time we only use this for testing purposes, just for incremental powder charges.
Yeah.
Once we have a charge that we know, like that's the charge, then we use the
Comes
Prometheus.
over to the Prometheus. Yeah, and you were like an early adopter of the Prometheus, right?
It has bought me back so much time over the years. I mean, that thing, what I do is I come over here, I drop the charge, because the Prometheus goes right into the case.
Yeah.
There's no transferring. I put the case under here, I drop it, and of course I keep a box of bullets right here, and I go to the amp press, and this thing just seats, it senses, it seats by itself, goes in the box. By the time I do that, this thing's ready for me to go again. And it's just, I mean, you pretty much see the ammo as fast as you can load ammo as fast as you can see the bullet.
Yeah, yeah. And no, I definitely have found that. I know with my amp press, it's just one of those things where it's nice because when you're doing this, like before you'd have, like you've got the coax here, which is a great press, but
yeah.
it does, you know, it's when you come down to cam and stuff, it's going to obviously affect the bench. The one thing I've really found with my amp press, and I don't know if you found the same thing, but it really has made it a less jostling environment.
Awesome. And I mean, I do everything sitting down. I don't like standing up, so I sit here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I put my phone up here. I may listen to a podcast. I may watch a movie, whatever. Because the Prometheus, it just lines up, right?
Right.
If it doesn't line up, for example, if it doesn't line up, it ain't ready. So you gotta turn that on. And so there it is, right?
Yeah.
And whenever this thing lines up, it's
Yeah.
come on. There it goes. Some powders it doesn't like. There it is. But once it lines up,
Yeah, that's it.
it doesn't require any thinking, right? You don't have to go, well, is that the charge? Was that it? Is it not it? No, it's when it lines up, it lines up. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's all it needs, right?
Any machines or any tools or anything here that like you just totally regretted buying? Maybe you've already sold them or you don't have, or they're in a corner. Anything that we're not seeing where you're like, I just really didn't. It just didn't do. Not that it's a bad tool. It just really didn't fit my needs. Or
I can't think of anything.
these are great. You got a 21st Century Hydro.
Yeah, so
Those
I
are
have
good.
two of them. That's what I had before the amp press, and I
Yeah.
still have them because they're still great. But back to when I come in here, I want to load ammo.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had my 21st Century Hydro press, and I had a backup because if that was to go bad, switch it out and start again. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, but no, I can't think of any tools that I regret buying. Well, I mean, I regret buying the basic toolkit from the get-go.
Okay.
But I didn't know any better.
Right.
So that all has been gone. I sold it or gave it away. I hate selling stuff that I don't like. I usually just give it away. And that's why I have a big pile over there of stuff. That's all going to be given away.
Yeah. You got a few
two-
bags and some tumblers and
Yeah, to my
stuff like that.
all the forum members on my website, they're all going to get them. They will. I mean, I'm like, all right, guys, here you go.
Yeah.
Help yourselves to whatever. I mean, if I can help somebody, because just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work for somebody else.
Oh, absolutely.
I need to be super clear on that.
Yeah.
Like I said, my objective is save time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So I think, we already kind of know the answer, obviously, but when it comes to your components, non-negotiables, burger bullets, Lapua brass, powder. You're going to find what the gun likes, right?
Yeah, typically, I really like Vitivori. I like how it throws. I like how the barrel life. Most people don't realize the barrel life you get with Vitivori powders.
I've heard it's a lot. I started with 165 when I first got my 284.
Oh, yeah, barrel life.
Cooler, longer barrel life. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other powders out there that work really well, and this goes back to shoot what works, right?
Yeah.
There's like 284. You have your 4350. That's one that's super.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it works, But like for my 6BR, I love N150. That stuff just works, and I've been testing the triple nickel lately.
For those that don't know, that's Vitivori N555.
N555.
And I'll tell you that you're not the first person that's told me that triple nickel is just heaven on earth for 284s.
And I shouldn't say that because I'm having a hard time getting it. I should stock up and then tell everybody how great it is. But I shot a 55 shot string, not in a row, right? I shoot and let the barrel cool down and then fired up the chronograph again 15, 20 minutes later and then shoot another 15 or so. Long story short, I had 55 shots with an SD of like 4.5 and ES of like 19.
Yeah,
for 55 shots over like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, that's strong.
It was super strong.
That's really strong.
And it's really, really good powder. But anyway, powders, there's many that'll work,
Yeah.
But that's my favorites.
So little negotiable in powders, but if it ain't burger and it ain't Lapua, you ain't shooting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I shot the CNRs for a long time. Those are also really good.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
just the BC kind of lacks a little.
Huh.
And they work, but they're the burgers they just have the BC and the consistency. It's all about consistency, right? The Lapua CNRs are really consistent. They just kind of lack the BC.
So speaking of that, are you a big believer of or proponent of, like I got to shoot all one lot of 180s, or are you kind of like, look, I don't care if it's 3 different lots and they measure out, I'm going to shoot them, or are you a lot to lot kind of shooter on bullets?
Lot. Every time I switch lots, I have to go and verify my seating depth.
Yeah. Same thing with brass. Same thing with, like, you wouldn't shoot 5 different lots of brass. You would.
Yeah,
want the same lot.
I keep. So even the same lot of brass, I separate it into boxes, and they kind of get their own lot.
Okay.
I want to keep them on the same firing.
Yeah. Which I think we see a lot of us. Like I keep them in boxes of 100, and
I just like to keep them all on the same firing.
Yeah.
I do boxes of 75 just because most matches, if it's a 3x20, it's 75.
That's smart.
And then even if it's a Palma, you're gonna burn up 60, and then that leaves you 15 that you can just blow off. But I do 75 just for that reason.
All right. Any other, like, leave my viewers with some little nugget of wisdom that you would normally only share with your viewers?
Not every gun is a quarter-minute gun. People need to know that. They waste so many components trying to tune a gun that you need to set out and say what are my requirements? What am I looking for? If you want half MOA, great. If you get half MOA, enjoy it. A lot of people, they want half MOA, they get there and they're like, oh, now I'm going for quarter MOA. Half MOA gun is not a quarter MOA gun, and vice versa. So once you get there, just enjoy it. A lot of people stress over not being able to, and sometimes we can't get quarter MOA out of these purposely built target rifles.
Yeah.
So know when to stop and know when to have fun.
Yeah. And a quarter-minute gun is something that shoots quarter-minute more than once.
Yeah, it's an average quarter-minute, consistent, not once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know.
That's good advice.
I went and shot a target yesterday, and I don't know where it went. But I shot 4 groups in a row. They were all quarter-minute. I'm like, okay, that's a quarter-minute gun.
Yeah.
But it's again, I don't expect the same thing from my PRS rifles as I do from my F-less rifles.
Right. And
I can make my PRS rifles shoot quarter MOA.
it's just not necessary.
It's just not necessary, and the time spent doing that it's just time that I could spend practicing PRS positions.
Yeah.
So again, figure out what it is that you need, and go from there.
All right. Well, hey, Erik, I can't thank you enough. I know you got a ton going on with your machining shop and everything, and the hospitality's been amazing. But thanks for taking the time to do this interview. Thanks for showing my viewers what you do, and thanks for making the shooting sports a better place.
Thank you. Keep them centered.